What's going on, everyone? This is Jake here. We're on the last episode of how to code your own stock trading bot, which is crazy. This is the 5th episode, and today we're going to be talking about machine learning. If this is your first time watching this series, pretty much the first 2 episodes are actually building the trading bot. The last 3 have been either optimizations or different techniques and strategies. So today we're going to be talking about machine learning, and we're going to be trying to or attempting to predict stock prices. We're going to be using Apple stock and try and predict their prices and see how close we can get. I got a lot of comments about people that wanted to add some type of machine learning aspect. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest expert on machine learning. Most of my trading systems don't have any machine learning. It's something that I'm learning and I'm getting better at. And in today's episode, it's a very, very simple use case of using regression. So what regression is basically it takes one variable, one data point, and it tries to relate it to another series of data points. And our data point is close price. So we're going to try and predict the close prices for Apple stock. We're going to get a data set, a training data set, and a test data set, and see if we can predict it. So today's episode, very, very simple use case of machine learning. My goal is to just inspire you to kind of open your eyes on different machine learning techniques. I would not use this system in a real life scenario, but I think there is a huge use case for machine learning in trading stocks. And I'm still learning and deciding which is the best method. But anyways, today my goal is just to open your eyes to machine learning, do some coding, and explain what's going on. So on the screen, basically, we're going to be using the Microsoft MLNet platform to implement our machine learning techniques, okay? Just an FYI, I did not create this code, what you're seeing right now. This was made by Microsoft. I did edit it and add some, basically alter it in a way to make it work with stocks. But I just want to be transparent with you guys because I know there's YouTubers out there that claim that they've claimed that they've written code, but they haven't. I prefer honesty. This is not my code. I just altered it quite a little bit to get it working with stocks. Okay, so this will all be in my GitHub below. And if you want the original source of this code, I'll also link the Microsoft article as well. But those will both be in my description below in the YouTube description. So anyways, to get started, basically open up Visual Studio, which is a code editor. And we're going to be coding this in C#, as you can see. If you know C#, you know what this looks like. If you don't, you'll have to download Visual Studio and the C# library. But basically, open up Visual Studio, hit New, Project, select Visual C#, and hit basically do a console app is fine with .NET Core. Okay. So that's the first project. I'm going to explain each line of code. I've already written this. I know you guys prefer if I write it with you guys, but like I said, this is not my code, so this is going to be more of an explaining. You can listen to me or you can code along as I explain each line. Once again, the code will be in the description, so you don't have to kind of pause the video. You can just download it. So let's explain what's going on. So we are going to attempt to predict stock prices once again using regression. Okay, regression is a supervised machine learning tactic to attempt to like I said, use one data point and try and correlate it with other data points, okay? So a good example is, I like explaining what I'm saying. I should be able to see that on the screen. Here we go. So this line summarizes the relationship between X and Y. We have all these blue data points, right? And we're trying to basically get the average and try to find some type of correlation, okay? So in our example with close prices, we're going to take Apple stock historical prices and attempt to predict them. So what you're going to need after you create this project, you will need, the first thing you'll have to do is make sure you import Microsoft.ml, okay? So to do that, after you create your project, right click on your solution, hit manage NuGet packages for solution. And NuGet is like, kind of like NPM Node Package Manager, just a way to install packages over the Microsoft network. On the Browse tab, just search, I think you just search Microsoft.ml, and you'll be able to download that. So click Microsoft.ml, select your project, and hit install. I already have it installed, so I don't need to do it. Once you do that, you will also need Microsoft.ml.fasttree, okay? So search that or select it here, click it, and then select your project and hit install. And we use the fast tree for it's just another method of doing regression using a decision tree. And this is the one that we're going to use. Okay, so make sure you install both of those, and you write a using statement here, using Microsoft.ml. Okay. So once we have that, we need training data and test data. Okay. Remember in my previous video, I talked about in and out of sample data. This is similar. We need data to train on and then compare that with actual test data, okay? So the in-sample data is the train data. The out-of-sample data is the test data. So what I've made, and I'll link these below as well, is a CSV of historical prices and volume for Apple stock. I've done it from September to October 2019, and we're going to be testing it against November and December 2019. So here's what they look like. You will these will be in the description. The CSVs will be in the description in my GitHub. So you'll be able to download that and import them there. And make sure you add a data folder as well in your project. So this is how your project should look like. Should be a data folder with both of those CSVs in there, okay? And once again, these are in my description. All right, so going up next, we're going to define our training data. And we're going to define our testing data, okay? So check our current directory, look for the data folder, and look for apple-train.csv, okay? And make sure you download the exact ones because it needs to be in those format. Now we're in our main method. This is where we're starting off. We're going to, you don't need to add this. If you're confused about your current directory, you can console write line. But we're going to instantiate a new ML context object and give it a seed of 0. And then we're going to make a model variable and call our train method with that context and our train data path, okay? All right, so we're going to train it, evaluate it, and then test a single prediction point, all right? So let's go into the train method. So this method is going to train the data. It's going to take our data points in the training series and attempt to fit them, okay? Attempt to generate that average, that regression, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to load our training data and say, yes, it has a header because it does, and the separator character is comma. So we have a header and everything's separated by commas, okay? So we're going to load that, and we're going to store it into what's called a stock price object, which I've defined, okay? So from here, after you write this line, you'll have to create a stock price class. So to do that, you right-click your project, hit add, new item, a class, okay, and call it stock price. I've already added it. So add a new class called stock price, and it's going to mimic our CSV and store it into an object. So we have an open, a high, a low, a close, and volume. Okay. And make sure these columns match up. And that all the types are the same. If they're not the same, you have to do some extra work to concatenate them. But in this case, we can leave them all as floats. Even though volume isn't really a float, usually it is an int. We can just leave it as a float and it will convert it. Okay. So make a stock price class, and then we're going to make another class called stock price close prediction. We're going to name this column the score and give it a public float of close. Okay. So this is what we're going to be this is going to be our score and how close we can match it. Okay. And we're going to use this class later when we test our prediction point. Okay. So we want to try and predict the close price. All right. So after we've done that, what we want to do is copy our columns for the close price. And all right, so after that, we're going to copy the columns for the close, and we're going to put it in an output column name of label. Okay, so with ML.NET, it requires a label, which is what you're trying to predict, and a features column. Okay, so we're trying to predict the close price, so that's going into our output of label, and the features is what we want to use to try and predict that close price. So what you call is after you copy the columns, you append and concatenate open, high, low, and volume, and put it in features. Okay, so that's what the features column is the data points that we're using to try and predict the close price. Okay. So once you do that, you append that with the fast tree decision algorithm. And this is basically the magic thing here, using the decision tree algorithm to try and attempt to predict the stock prices. All right. So then we just display, all right, create and train the model. So we call fit, which passes in a data view, which is basically our concatenated file of all the data, okay, of the training data. So create and train the model and then return it. All right. So that's our train method. Our next method is our evaluate method, which we're going to pass in our context and then our returned train data. So now what we're going to do is load our test data from our separate CSV using our test data path. Okay. And then our predictions is from our current model. So model is our training data. We're going to call our current training data dot transform our test data. Okay. And according to the docs, take the data in, make transformations, output the data. All right. Now we're going to make a new variable called metrics, call regression evaluate, and use our predictions from our transforming above. And we're going to compare label and score. All right. So label is the close prices from the training data and score is the testing data. All right. What we're going to do now is after we get the results, we're going to basically print a R-squared score and a root mean squared error score. Basically, these are metrics determining how good our model is and how accurate they are. And you're going to see in a minute how well they do. All right. For the R-squared, you want this ideally as close to 1 as possible and the squared error as close to 0 as possible. All right. So it's going to print those to the screen using console write line. Okay, so if we scroll back up, that was at our evaluate method. And then our last method is let's try and test a single prediction. So we're going to create a prediction engine using our stock price class and our stock price close prediction class. All right. We made our stock price close prediction in here. And we're going to pass in, I believe, our training data. Yes, our training data. Okay. All right. So we'll call this the prediction function. Sorry. Here's our what our sample data might look like. And create a new stock price class, instantiate a new class, give it an open, high, low, and volume, and set the close to 0 because that's what we're going to try and predict. In this case, the actual price was $255.82 for Apple, the actual close price. And we're going to try and predict the price with this sample. And then we're going to print out the results and then the actual close. The actual close was supposed to be 255.82. So hopefully our prediction gets somewhere around there. All right. So that's our whole program. Once again, I did not write this from scratch. I simply took one of Microsoft's example guides and modified it to work with stocks. Okay. So that's why I wasn't really coding with you. I already written this and, I just wanted to show you kind of how it works. So let's try and run it and see what we get. And I'm going to talk about why it's not the best. All right, so let's run it. In Visual Studio, I would recommend running it without the debugger or else it'll close. So we run it. It predicts 245.26. Yet the actual close was 255.82. Okay, so it was way off. It was $10 off. Not the best. Not the best. So why? Why is it not that good? Okay. In my earlier videos, I've said that the stock market has a lot of noise. Okay, the stock market has so many different variables and factors that cause the prices to fluctuate, right? And it's filled with thousands, probably millions of investors, right? So it's not a one-to-one market. It's not like you input and there's another output. There's, many inputs and one output. Because the stock price is the collective agreement of what everyone thinks that security is valued at. Okay. So we're trying to build a machine learning model simply based off of what? Open, high, low, close, and volume data points, okay? These are too vague. These are not enough to predict a stock price, right? Simply, finding the average between those will not give you good results. We can already see. We can see from our results that, we're $10 off, right? Our R-squared score is -6. That's god-awful. That's really bad. And our squared error is 27, right? Like I said, for this, you want to get as close to 1 as possible. And for this, you want to get as close to 0 as possible. All right. And like I said earlier in the video, I would not use this in a live situation. My goal from this video was to open your eyes to machine learning and how it can be used. How could we make this better, though? How could we make it more accurate? I think simply you need to use more, I wouldn't say more data points the better, but in this case, yes. In this case, you could use data points such as a company's earnings report, their profit, the current economy, GDP, treasury bond yields, news, right? I think we simply need to add more data points in our CSV to learn from, okay? Adding those things, what I just mentioned, like news, treasury bond yields, a company's earnings report, would make this much more accurate, okay? So how would you build a stock trading bot to utilize these prediction services? So at the end of the day, it's impossible to predict an exact stock price, right? It's more, you could say it's more accurate to predict maybe a range and trade based around that range. And that's kind of what my trading bot uses. It doesn't use this code specifically to predict prices, but my trading bot is similar to this in which it tries to predict prices and then buys and sells around those values, right? So in this example, say this prediction was a bit more accurate around, say it said 252 or 253, we could say, all right, maybe we want to buy around this level or sell our profit around this level, right? And wait for the next prediction before we take a profit or do another entry. So this is a very, very rudimentary way of adding to your trading system, right? This isn't great. This isn't good at all. I would not use this in a live situation at all. But my goal is to inspire and open your eyes on how machine learning works, in this case, using the regression model, okay? Some other use cases for machine learning, which may be better than this, say, for example, you had 2 or 3 strategies that you were running simultaneously. You could build a machine learning platform or a machine learning use case to decide which strategy to use based on previous factors, right? Using a neural network or LTSM, right? Predicting prices is a bit tougher, but I would say the best use case for machine learning with algorithmic trading is picking a strategy. Let me know in the comments below if you use any machine learning tactics, and what possible use cases there is, right? So that's it. This is pretty much the end of the video. I hope you guys found some value in this. Let me know if you were looking for more, if you felt like this wasn't enough. But my goal for this video was to inspire you and kind of end off this series with a little introduction to machine learning and maybe build on this in the future. Like I said, I am not a machine learning expert. My expertise is building trading bots that are profitable, and you don't need machine learning to do that. With that being said, machine learning can be a great tool to, build that moat around your castle and make sure your trading system is improving over time with minimal human effort, with minimal human interaction. But anyways, I hoped, I opened your eyes to machine learning and inspired you to take this code and build it on further. Once again, it'll be all in my description below. And my next few videos will be a bit more original. My last 5 videos have been all for this series, and now I'm going to be doing a lot more different cool stuff, which I'm really excited for. I think you guys are going to see, I got some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy this video. This is Jacob, and I'll see you next time. Peace, guys.